The regular season is now over, which means it's time for my favorite time of the year. It's time for some pointless mock drafts. So let's get right into it with the Raiders being on the clock, number one overall. They are going to go with Fernando Mendoza. This pick seems pretty obvious. He was the Heisman winner. Despite him being statistically one of the worst Heisman winners in a long time, Mendoza is going to end up being the pick at number one for the Raiders in all likelihood. Next up for the Jets, this one seems pretty clear too. They need a quarterback. Justin Fields did not pan out how they would have liked him to. And the second best quarterback in this draft, obviously, Dante Moore. Now, the draft really starts here at 3 for Arizona. They could do a lot of things here. They could go quarterback. I've seen a lot of people put a guy like Ty Simpson up here, but I don't think he's nearly good enough to go number 3 or in the first round at all. Here, it's more likely they go with the best player on the board, and that to me is Orville Reese. Orville Reese has the best upside out of any defensive player in this draft, and I think at 3, it's a good gamble to take Reese for Arizona. Now, number 4, Tennessee. They could do a lot of things here. They could take Jeremiah Love. They could take a wide receiver for Cam Ward for his development. But I think the smart play here would be to take the best pass rusher in this draft based on pure skill, and that would be Ruben Bain. I think he has all the tools to be a really dominant force off the edge in the league, and I think that's something that this Titans defense really needs. Now, for the New York Giants, what do? Their number one need is wide receiver. Malik Neighbors got hurt earlier this season. We saw Wan'Dale Robinson have sort of a breakout year, but what else do they have at that position? Darius Slayton? I think wide receiver has to be a pick here, and it's really between Jordan Tyson and Carnell Tate. Those two guys are really 1A and 1B to me in this draft. You can't really go wrong with either, I think, but I think that the Giants are more likely to take Carnell Tate ahead of Tyson. And similarly, for the Browns, they need a wide receiver. It seems like they're going to rock with Shadur Sanders next season for some reason. He did not look good this season at all, but hey, they believe in him. They're rocking with him. But if he's going to pan out, he needs some weapons because their number one weapon in that offense was a rookie tight end. Jerry Jeudy fell off really hard. They don't have any good wide receivers. They were starting undrafted free agents, so Jordan Tyson has to be the pick here. Now for the Commanders. They fell off really hard this season, coming off of an NFC Championship appearance. Jaden Daniels got hurt, lots of injuries, and they're now picking 7th in the draft. They could do a lot of things here. I could definitely see them going with Caleb Downs, but just based purely off of positional value, I don't think that they would be willing to take a safety that high. I think what they're actually going to do is similarly to Downs, take a defensive back. And my favorite defensive back in this draft is Mansour Delane. I've seen a lot of guys really high on Delane. Some I've seen like in the top 5. I don't think he's quite that good, but he's definitely my favorite cornerback in this draft. And I think that he'd be a good fit next to Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Sainristil in Washington. Now for the Saints. Pretty decent season for the Saints, all considering. Tyler Shuck didn't look too bad. Biggest need is wide receiver, but the two biggest wide receivers are off the board. Jeremiah Love certainly could be the play here. Kamara's getting older. They don't really have a good second option besides Audric Estime. but I don't think that they take him here. I think that they got to go with a defensive lineman here, as Brian Brzee hasn't panned out exactly how they wanted. Cameron Jordan's getting older. They need to upgrade that defensive line immediately. They picked um, Foskey a couple years ago. He hasn't panned out. He's a Bengal now. And I think Peter Woods would really fit well on that defensive line. He went to Clemson. Brian Brzee went to Clemson. Peter Woods, I think, could be a very good player in the league. He's versatile. He can play on the inside. He can play off the edge. And I think at pick 8 here, he's a perfect fit for New Orleans. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs. What a fall from grace they had. 3 straight Super Bowl appearances to the 9th pick in the draft. Their offense looked really bad this year. Mahomes got hurt, unfortunately. Travis Kelce's probably not going to be back next year. But the biggest problem with their offense was their lack of running, the running attack. They could not establish the run whatsoever. Pacheco and Hunt are not starting caliber running backs. And I think a lot of people think this too, that they're going to take the best player in the draft here, for me personally, Jeremiah Love, to revitalize that offense and restart that dynasty. Now at number 10, Cincinnati Bengals. This is the dream scenario if you are Cincinnati. Caleb Downs falls down the board, probably the second best player in this draft next to Jeremiah Love. Geno Stone and Jordan Battle have not been good. That defense as a whole has not been good. I could see them taking a guy like David Bailey, very good pass rusher, but I think that they're going to rock with Shamar Stewart and Miles Murphy, possibly bring Joseph Osai back. Murphy and Stewart looked a whole lot better down the stretch than they did, and I think that both of those guys could be really good players, so I think that that justifies taking a guy like Caleb Downs, who could be a true leader in that defense and get them back to where they were in 2021. Now for Miami. Miami could do a lot of things here. They could take a quarterback. I don't think that they will, especially after Dante Moore and Mendoza are gone, obviously. Tua is not the answer. They're trying to ship him out of town. What I think they do here is take the best offensive lineman on the board, Spencer Fano. I think whatever quarterback they go with, they're probably going to find in free agency. And that offensive line has just been atrocious, and they need some protection and might as well get the best one in this draft. Now for Dallas. Dallas had the worst linebacking core in the league. They tried to fix it by trading for Logan Wilson. He sucks. Kenneth Murray sucks. They don't have a good linebacker besides for Overshown. And there's one top of the draft, Sonny Styles out of Ohio State. I think could be a really good fit for them. Linebackers don't usually go this high, but the Cowboys have shown that they're not afraid to reach a little bit for positions of need, like last year with Tyler Booker, and Tyler Booker has been a great guard for them. So I think just based off of need, they're going to pick Sonny Styles, and he's a great linebacker, and I think he's going to really improve that core. Now for the Rams. The Rams are really lucky to get this pick. James Pierce has been great for the Falcons, but is it worth trading the 13th pick for him? Time will tell, I guess. But the Rams are a pretty solid team, offensively and defensively. And Stafford, coming off a almost MVP season, nearing the end of his career, I think you got to get him some protection. Francis Mauigoa is a phenomenal tackle. I think you could slide him in, and that's one of their weakest position groups, and hopefully preserve what they have going right now. Baltimore. Their biggest position of need is probably their kicker, but they're not going to take a kicker in the first round. And I think that this is an absolute gift if you're Baltimore for David Bailey to slide down the board like he has here. Definitely a top 3 edge rusher in this draft. Definitely a top 10 talent. Just how the board has fallen, this would be a phenomenal pick for the Ravens. The Ravens seem to always get steals like this in the draft, and this could really revitalize their defensive line. Mike Green hasn't been the greatest. They traded away Odafe Oweh to the Chargers, and they need some more pass rushers. So David Bailey is a great pick here at 14. Now for the Buccaneers. They looked great at the beginning of the season. Baker Mayfield looked like a bona fide MVP candidate, but didn't end up going their way. Eliminated from the playoffs. And what I like for them here is some defensive line help. Keldrick Falk is a guy that I think could be really good for them. He's an athletic freak, and I think that he would fit really well on this Tampa Bay defense. Get in there and wreak some havoc. Now for the second pick in the draft, the Jets, they just picked Dante Moore. I think we have to get him some weapons. We know that Justin Fields, Brady Cook, whoever was playing quarterback was just terrible for the Jets this season, but the leading receiver for the Jets had less than 400 yards. It was Garrett Wilson. And what they need really badly is some weapons for Dante Moore to really have some fun with. And I think Mekhi Lemon's right there on the board. Might as well take him there. Now for the Lions at 17. The Lions, 2 years ago, NFC Championship appearance. Now, not so much. And one of their biggest positional needs is cornerback. Jermod McCoy, probably the second best cornerback in this draft, right behind Mansour Delane. I think that'd be a great pick here at 17. Terrion Arnold isn't the guy that they've thought he was, and I think that they can bring McCoy in here to really boost that position group. Now 18, Minnesota. Minnesota, they also need defensive back. There's not running backs that you're going to take here. Definitely not a center that you're going to take here. And Avion Terrell has been one of the bright spots for Clemson. And I think that Minnesota would be pretty smart to take him here in this position. They need a cornerback. He's right there, one of the top 3, one of the 3 that are definitely deserving of being a first-round pick. So Avion Terrell, welcome to Minnesota. Carolina, wide receiver, defensive line. They could go Boston here. They lost Adam Thielen earlier this year. Xavier Legette is not the guy that they want him to be. They don't really have that guy at wide receiver, but I think you can find better wide receivers based on value down in the draft in the second or third round. So I think they take a guy like Cassius Howell. Nick Scorton they took last year in the second round out of Texas A&M has been really good for them. Might as well double up on the Texas A&M edge rushers, see how they can do. Now another pick for Dallas they got in the Micah Parsons trade. They took Sonny Styles earlier in this draft. I think they're going to want to hammer in on the defense because their defense was either last or second to last for sure in the league. So I think that they're going to want a cornerback here because they just lost Trayvon Diggs to the Packers as well. Colton Hood is there. I think that they could take him here. Teammate of Jermod McCoy. If you're the Cowboys, you're certainly hoping that McCoy or Terrell follow you here. But in this situation, they don't. I think Colton Hood is a decent option here. And I think that's what the Cowboys will do. Now for Pittsburgh. They made the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers is probably going to be gone. They're not going to take a quarterback. Denzel Boston certainly could be an option to go alongside DK Metcalf. I don't think that they're going to go wide receiver here. I think the more important thing to do is to protect whoever they have at quarterback because their offensive line hasn't been good. Broderick Jones hasn't panned out the way that they wanted him to. I think Proctor could be the pick here. I think he would be a good pick. A lot of question marks about Proctor, but I think it's worth it to take a gamble on him here. Now for the Chargers. The Chargers lack depth on the defensive line really bad. They lost Joey Bosa to the Bills last season. They haven't been doing much to really fill that out. I think Caleb Banks is right there. They don't really have a bona fide defensive tackle. Tier Tart is their starting defensive tackle. That can't happen. I think Caleb Banks would be a great pick here to stuff the run. Now for the Eagles. The Eagles are a pretty solid team. We all know this. They've been solid for a long time now. I think they have the liberty of choosing whoever they want based on need here. And I think their biggest need is replacing Tyler Steen at the left guard. So might as well take the best guard in the draft here out of Penn State. Now for Buffalo. They could do a lot of things here. Keon Coleman certainly hasn't panned out. Denzel Boston is an option. They could do something on defense as well because Joey Bosa is obviously getting older. I think they go something on the defense. Definitely an edge rusher to really build that depth after Joey Bosa eventually regresses or retires. And I think that they go with TJ Parker. I think TJ Parker has better upside, the most upside of anyone on the board. Now for the Bears. The Bears surprised a lot of people this year. They've been very good. Biggest need is on the defensive line. I'm thinking more on the interior. You have Caden McDonald here, and I think that'd be a good pick for the Bears here. They have aging defensive tackles. I think bringing some youth to the group would be nice. So Caden McDonald, welcome to Chicago. Now for San Francisco. If you're San Francisco, you see Denzel Boston on the board, you got to take him here. You lose Deebo Samuel to the Commanders. You're going to lose Brandon Ayuk this offseason. Your wide receiver one all year has been Ricky Pearsall, and he's been good. He's been a good wide receiver, but you can't rock with Pearsall as your wide receiver one going into next year. I think Denzel Boston, you bring him in to be that guy, another guy for Purdy to use in that offense. Now for the Texans. The Texans surprised a lot of people this year. Their defense has been phenomenal. CJ Stroud has looked good during the playoffs. I think that they can make a really long run into the playoffs. I think the Texans could do a lot of things here. They could take a guy like Romello Height. They could take a wide receiver, perhaps, because you never know if Tank Dell is going to come back the way he used to be. Could take a tackle. But I really like Brandon Cisse out of South Carolina for the Texans here to boost that secondary because how good that defense is, I still think that their secondary is still the weakest spot of their defense. And I don't think an offensive pick here would make much sense for them. So I'm going to go with him. Now, the second pick for Cleveland, they picked Jordan Tyson at 6. They have another pick at 28 from Jacksonville. And Myles Garrett just got the sack record, 23 sacks in the season. Very impressive. But besides that and Mason Graham on the defensive line, they don't have much. I think they're going to want to continue to build up that defensive line. And Romello Height is right there, teammate of David Bailey. Both very good pass rushers. Height definitely the worst of the two, but he's still a first round talent. And I think that they take him to really bolster up that defense. Now, the Rams' second pick, they picked Mauigoa at 13, a tackle. And their actual first round pick, they could do a lot of things here. Like I said, they're a very solid team. I don't think that they double up on tackles and take Lumu. They could go corner here, but there's not really many corners that are available. The Texans took Cisse, Colton Hood's off the board. The big three others are off the board. So I could definitely see them going based off of need. I think linebacker is an underrated need of theirs. I think CJ Allen could be the pick here. Now for New England. New England surprised a lot of people. Drake May, probably the MVP. I knew that. Coming in off the draft, I was very high on Drake May. A lot of people were not. A lot of people were much higher on Caleb Williams. I still think Drake May should have been the number one pick in that draft. But the Patriots, Drake May got sacked a whole lot this season, despite how good he was. Lomu's right here. Gotta take him to protect the MVP. Now for the Broncos. Despite how good their record says that they are not as good of a team. Their point differential is very low for being 14-3. And, they brought in a tight end this offseason, and he was not very good for them this year at all. But Kenyon Sadiq, sitting right here, best tight end in the draft, I think that'd be a good weapon for Drake May to pair next to Mims and Courtland Sutton. Now, the last pick in the first round, the Seattle Seahawks. They surprised a lot of people, too. A lot of people didn't think that they'd be as good as they are. I didn't think that Sam Darnold could do it again, lead his team to a first-round bye. I don't think that they're going to win the Super Bowl, but they're a good team. I think that they got to do something on the defensive side of the ball. They have two great running backs. They have one of the best wide receivers in the league. Darnold seems serviceable. Their offensive line is quite good. It's got to be something on the defensive line. I think a guy like LT Overton out of Alabama can never have too many edge rushers. They'll spend a first-round pick on him here. And that'll be the end of the first round. And I know it's really early. With the playoffs coming up, the order is not going to look the same as this at all. But it's going to be really fun. I can't wait to do more of these. I hope that you like my picks for your team. And if you don't, well, that's too bad. Because I'm pretty accurate at these. I got 8 picks right last year in my first round draft. Not my best year, but pretty good all considering.